Hi, everyone. Today I have a really interesting conversation with Kristine O'Connor about quality intelligence. Last year, Kristine spoke at the Pacific Northwest Software Quality Conference, and this year is going back again as a keynote speaker. Today, we'll dive into some of her topics about quality intelligence in her paper. Kristine, how are you doing?
I'm great. Thanks for having me, Christian.
So, in the paper that you wrote about quality intelligence, in this paper, you talk about the Team Helix story and the refill design passed the test, but it frustrated real users. What did that moment teach you about quality?
So that moment was really about wondering, as a team member, when we focus on quality, we're really thinking about if we built it right. So in that moment with the team, they started to ask the question, did we solve the right problem for all of our users? Because clearly in the paper, there was one specific group, and then that slowly started to expand that didn't solve their problem. In fact, it really made it worse.
Yeah, and I think that's really interesting talking about making sure that all of the users, I mean, because obviously you have one group in mind, but if all the users can't use it effectively, that's pretty bad. So in this paper, you talk about quality intelligence as looking just beyond defects, looking beyond those obvious bugs. And so what does that shift look like in the day-to-day work of a QA team trying to apply this quality process?
So when I think about how you maybe need to expand your mindset as a tester, or in a quality role on a team, it's really about more deeply understanding your customers, your users of your software, your products that you produce, and always keeping that customer-centric mindset, if you will, at the front and forefront of everything that we're doing and thinking. So as a tester, when we begin to wonder about who our customers are and what they need from our products, then we can start to really understand, well, the behavior that customer A may need and find valuable from this workflow may look a little different than for customer B. And so that really allows us to think with that customer hat on and more better, if you will, delight them and meet their needs. And
Yeah.
so that's really what I think, as a quality professional, how can we shift how we approach our work from just, did this one workflow work to, is this going to work for this user? How will this impact, that other market segment, to use a different term there, right? So having that curiosity as a quality team member can really help us identify opportunities, and see things we otherwise might have missed.
Yeah, I think that's a really great point talking about instead of focusing on the one workflow, you're focused on the different customer hats, right? And I think that's probably, I mean, in any line of work, right? When you're making something for a consumer, that it's kind of hard to think about things outside of your perspective. So in this paper, it talks about, QA, product support and marketing, and customer research working more closely together. So what changed in these groups? As they started learning together.
Well, I think most importantly, it within the organization, by working collaboratively in a cross-functional way and looking at and consuming the feedback, those feedback loops from their customers, they were each able to grow their shared understanding of their customers' experience of as they use their products in production. And that they're going to take that new information and go off and make change or do something, right? Have some kind of conversation within their functional organization around what does this mean, right? What do we do with this new information? And that's really what it's intended to do, is to really grow our knowledge of our customers, so that we continue to stay relevant and necessary to them, and then make informed decisions based off of that knowledge, that we now have captured, and to do it in a way that, together, moves us all forward in making the right improvement decisions.
So I think when you're saying, talk about growing the knowledge of your customer, I'm sure that a lot of people are also thinking about, where does AI fit in with this? AI in testing is a hot topic. People are talking about it. It's being integrated into more teams. So in your paper, you mentioned AI helping with patterns, telemetry, and test scenarios. Where do you think AI helps quality teams the most right now?
Oh, that's a great question. When I think about everything that I was writing in my paper last year, I kept coming back to, in my thought process, really having empathy with your customers and really knowing who they are. Because the more deeply we understand them, then the more we can better solve for their needs, their problems, exactly what I said earlier. And when we have that deep knowledge, we can use it to do things like program an agent, right? And use, right, that custom agent to help us develop maybe some behavior driven test scenarios so that we are thinking about all of the impacts. We can even ask, think about, asking questions around our design about impacts to our senior caregiver who has low vision and how this new design may be leveraged in evening hours, right? So think about all those edge cases that could actually be real big impacts to your customers if you really understand what they need. So you can start to ask those questions and be curious in a much more powerful way with AI.
Yeah, I think that's a great use case for AI. I mean, using agents and really testing those edge cases, I think that's really smart. I've never thought of something like doing that. So lastly, what was it like writing and submitting this paper, and how was your experience and how to help you grow personally and professionally?
So I'd first written my first paper for PNSQC in 2023. And then again, I participated in 2025. And it is incredibly humbling to put your ideas out onto paper with and have it read and consumed by other people, but they really made the whole writing process super engaging. They provided someone who was my doing my peer review throughout the whole writing process, and it really forced me, it was a forcing function for me to solidify my thoughts and ideas around these different topics. And ultimately, it helped me better connect them back to the why when I think about why is this important for testers, for quality professionals, and how can this help us fill in the blank in whatever way. And then being able to present this in front of my peers on site at the conference was just an amazing opportunity. And so I always try to encourage folks to join and attend the conference if they can in person or remotely. But if not that, then also consider, maybe becoming an author of your own submission next year. It's a great growth opportunity professionally and personally to go through.
Yeah, that's a very great point. I think also, I mean, even be able to read these, great peer-reviewed papers are a great way for testers to grow. So if you want to see Kristine, you can see her this year at the PNSQC in October. Thank you so much for your time today.
Yeah, thanks so much. Have a great day.
You too.